You ever think you've moved into the perfect neighborhood until it turns on you? Because that's what happened to me. It started with the sound of tires on gravel at 2 a.m., then a bang. My front door flew open like it had been waiting for permission, and in walked some kid I'd never seen before. Backpack on, phone in hand, acting like he owned the place. I froze. My brain went straight to home invasion mode, and before I could even grab my phone, he looks me dead in the eye and says, "Relax, my mom runs the HOA, I can go wherever I want." Let that sink in. His mom runs the HOA, so apparently that means he can break into my house. The smell of cold pizza still sitting on the counter, the sound of my heartbeat in my ears, and this entitled little punk going through my drawers like he's shopping for snacks. I remember thinking, is this real life or some bad TV show? But here's what Trevor and his queen of the HOA mother didn't realize. That night wasn't just a break-in, it was a turning point. Because when you live in a neighborhood ruled by fear and fake authority, eventually, someone has to push back. And that someone was me. What happened next? Let's rewind. 3 months before the night everything exploded. 3 months before everything went off the rails, I thought I'd finally found peace. Willowbrook Estates, clean sidewalks, trimmed hedges, a quiet lake at the end of the street. It looked like the kind of place where life finally calms down after chaos. I'd just come out of a messy divorce, raising my 16-year-old daughter Zoe on my own. And I wanted normal. Mow the lawn, pay the dues, maybe grill on weekends. First few weeks were perfect until the welcome letter showed up. Not cookies, not a handshake, an HOA violation notice. Mailbox color non-compliant. My post was brown. Apparently it was supposed to be black. I read every line of the 47-page bylaws. No mention of mailbox colors anywhere. 2 days later, another notice. Excessive lawn ornaments. Translation: our one tiny garden gnome, the one Zoe picked to make the new house feel less empty. That was the first crack in the picture-perfect postcard. So I called the HOA hotline. Guess where it rang? Straight to Vivian Ashworth's personal phone, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I've been maintaining standards for 15 years, she snapped. When I asked which rule she was quoting, she hung up. Next morning, her black BMW rolled past our house like clockwork. Windows down, phone pointed right at our yard. My neighbor Dolores, sweet lady in her 70s, leaned over her fence and whispered, "She's watching you now." Happened to the last family, too. They didn't last long. That was the day I started keeping records, photos, timestamps, copies of every letter. Because in Willowbrook, it wasn't the written rules that ran the neighborhood. It was Vivian Ashworth. And her version of order came with intimidation. A camera phone. And a clipboard full of fear. It was a Saturday morning, 8 sharp, coffee half burnt, and me standing in boxers when the doorbell went off like an alarm. I opened the door, and there she is, Vivian Ashworth, clipboard, measuring tape, digital camera, and her son Trevor right behind her, grinning like he's watching his favorite show. "Mr. Rodriguez," she announced. "We're conducting routine property inspections today." Routine? No notice, no warning, just her marching up my steps like a building inspector. I asked the only question that mattered. "Can you show me where it says you're allowed to inspect private property?" She smiled that tight, condescending smile of hers. "General maintenance clause," she said. "Which section exactly?" I pushed. That wiped the smile right off her face. She ignored me and started pacing around my yard, snapping photos like paparazzi. Trevor followed, throwing in cheap comments about my rental-quality landscaping. It was harassment dressed up as authority. By the time she left, I knew it wasn't over. That evening, my phone rang. City Code Enforcement. "Mr. Rodriguez, we received an anonymous complaint about unlicensed electrical work at your address." I actually laughed. "Anonymous?" I asked. "Yeah, thought so." The inspector came out, checked every outlet, every wire, every panel. After an hour, he looked up and said, "Everything's perfect. Whoever reported this clearly doesn't understand code." Then he added something that made my stomach drop. "Funny thing, This is the third complaint about your house in 2 weeks. Same anonymous caller every time. That's when I realized Vivian's reach wasn't limited to mailboxes or gnomes anymore. She'd started using the system itself as a weapon, and I had just become her new favorite target. After that so-called inspection, it was like Vivian found a new hobby, burying me in paperwork. Every morning, my mailbox turned into a dumping ground for violation notices. One for improper hose storage, another for window screen oxidation, then one for driveway oil stain exceeding acceptable size, a stain the size of a quarter. By week 3, I was getting more letters from the HOA than I was from my own daughter's school. Each one came with a fine climbing higher every time. $50, then $75, then $100. It was like she was testing how far she could push before I broke. But here's what she didn't count on. I don't back down easy. I started treating every notice like evidence. I photographed each one, logged the dates, and recorded every phone call. Thanks to late-night research, I learned HOAs can't legally fine you without a formal hearing in front of an active board. So I filed official disputes for every single violation and asked for hearing dates. The responses? Robotic form letters. Your request has been forwarded to the board. When's the next meeting? Pending schedule. Turns out the board hadn't met in 8 months. 8 months. And yet fines were still being issued like clockwork. That's when I realized what was really happening. There was no oversight, no process, no functioning leadership. Just one woman enforcing her own version of the law. My neighbor Dolores called it life under quiet dictatorship. She wasn't exaggerating. You could feel the fear in people's eyes when her BMW slowed near their driveway. Vivian didn't need rules written down. In her mind, she was the rulebook, and I was the first one who dared to read it out loud. It was a Wednesday night, quiet still, the kind of silence that makes every creak sound suspicious. Around 11, I heard gravel crunching outside. I peeked through the blinds and saw a flashlight beam moving across my yard. And there he was, Trevor Ashworth, the HOA prince himself, creeping around with his phone out. I stepped outside. "What are you doing on my property?" He didn't even flinch. "Official HOA business," he said. "We got noise complaints." "From who?" "It's 11 p.m. He smirked. "Can't reveal sources." That smug tone told me everything. He wasn't there for noise, he was there to intimidate. I called the police right in front of him. He laughed and said, "My mom runs this neighborhood. You really think the cops are gonna care?" Then he bolted. The officer who responded, Martinez, was calm but direct. "We'll need a pattern. Keep cameras rolling." So, I installed security cameras the next morning. And it's a good thing I did, because the footage didn't take long to pile up. A few days later, my neighbor Dolores knocked on my door, clutching a stack of letters. "Marcus," she whispered, "you need to see this." She'd been intercepting misplaced violation notices, ones meant for other residents that never made it to the HOA management company. She suspected mail tampering, courtesy of Vivian's family connections. Then came the knockout punch. Trevor showed up again, this time hand-delivering a lien notice. $247 in fines, pay within 30 days or face foreclosure. That was it. The moment I realized this wasn't just harassment. It was a calculated attack, an attempt to take my home under the mask of community enforcement. And they were about to find out I wasn't playing defense anymore. After that lien threat, something clicked in my head. This wasn't about gnomes, hoses, or mailbox colors anymore. This was about money. So I called Janet, my friend from legal aid. "If she's threatening foreclosure, we need to know where the dues are going," I told her. Within a week, our little team formed. Me, Janet, my neighbor Phil the accountant, Bernard the record keeper, and Dolores, the quiet force behind it all. Phil started crunching numbers. 78 homes, he said, tapping his calculator. At $75 a month, that's $5,800. Annually, about 70 grand. Then he compared that to actual expenses. Landscaping, utilities, insurance, basic maintenance, maybe $23,000 a year tops. So where's the other 47 grand going? Phil asked, flipping through bank records Janet pulled from public filings. That's when we saw it. Monthly payments to something called Ashworth Property Consulting Services. Vivian's company. The woman was paying herself for community standards enforcement and resident relations, and it didn't stop there. Her brother-in-law's landscaping company billed the HOA $200 a month for mowing grass you could trim in an hour. Emergency irrigation repairs, $8,500. Mailbox upgrades, $3,400. None of it ever happened. Phil's pen scratched across the page. Conservative total? She siphoned off at least 65 grand. That's when it hit us. Vivian's violation circus wasn't just about control. It was cover. The constant noise, fines, and fear. A smokescreen for embezzlement. For the first time, we weren't just fighting fake rules, we were building a criminal case. And we knew exactly where to expose it. At the annual HOA meeting, Vivian could no longer postpone. Once we realized the money trail led straight to Vivian, we stopped playing defense and went on offense. That's when Operation Transparency was born, our own neighborhood task force. We met in my living room, coffee mugs lined up like evidence markers. Janet spread out the legal pads. Here's the plan, she said. We prove she's been running this HOA like a personal business. Everyone had a role. Janet handled the legal groundwork, fiduciary duties, audit rights, state laws for board accountability. Phil built the numbers into visual charts. Income, expenses, missing funds, all color-coded and airtight. Bernard created a timeline showing every violation, every intercepted notice, every board meeting that never happened. And Dolores went door to door collecting stories from other homeowners. Families fined into submission, retirees bullied over non-compliant shrubs, and single parents drowning in fake fees. My job? Documentation. I had video, timestamps, photos, and that lien notice with Trevor's smug signature. We turned my dining table into a full-blown war room. The goal was simple. Expose every lie in front of the entire community at the annual HOA meeting. But we knew Vivian would try to stop it, so we printed flyers and went door to door. You have a right to know where your money's going, we told everyone. And it worked. Neighbors who'd been silent for years finally started talking. One man showed us a folder of bogus fines totaling over $1,000. Another confessed he'd been scared to complain. By week's end, 43 households promised to show up. The seats would be full, the projector ready, and Vivian's empire about to face the light of day. This time we weren't fighting rumors. We were bringing receipts. The moment word got out about the upcoming meeting, Vivian panicked. You could see it in the sudden flurry of official notices plastered across doors. One morning I stepped outside to find a bright yellow paper taped to mine. Annual HOA meeting postponed. Facility maintenance issues. Except there weren't any. I called the community center myself. The manager said, "Maintenance issues? None that I know of. Your reservation's still active." Vivian had tried to cancel the meeting with a lie. Then the harassment went from paperwork to property damage. That same week my mailbox was spray-painted red. The word snitch scrawled across it like graffiti. The next morning, all 4 tires on my truck were slashed clean through. My cameras caught every second. Trevor, dressed in black, knife glinting under the streetlight, laughing like it was a game. Officer Martinez reviewed the footage. "This isn't vandalism anymore," she said. "This is felony destruction of property." But Vivian wasn't done. Flyers appeared on mailboxes claiming I was a disgruntled ex-employee, spreading lies about respected community leaders. It was sloppy, desperate character assassination, and it backfired. Neighbors started calling me instead of avoiding me. Then came her biggest mistake. She showed up at my front door in person, wearing her usual designer confidence. "Marcus," she said, smiling too tightly, "let's reset everything. Drop the accusations and I'll erase your violations." Fresh start. I hit record on my phone. So you'll clear my fines, Corbin, if I stop talking about the missing money? Her face froze. I never said that, but she had. That recording became Exhibit A, proof that Vivian was ready to trade silence for corruption. And I wasn't taking the deal. It happened the night before the meeting. I was working a late shift downtown, rewiring a small office job while Zoe was sleeping over at a friend's house. For once, the house was empty, and that's what made it perfect bait. At around 1:30 a.m., my phone buzzed with a security alert. Motion detected, kitchen. My stomach dropped. I opened the live feed and froze. There he was, Trevor Ashworth, inside my house, rummaging through drawers, flipping papers, opening cabinets. I drove home like a madman, heart hammering. When I pulled into the driveway, my front door was wide open, lights blazing. I hit record on my phone before stepping inside. The kitchen looked like a bomb went off, drawers yanked out, papers scattered everywhere. And standing right in the middle of the chaos was Trevor. Holding a stack of my HOA documents, I said, "You seriously broke into my house?" He didn't even blink. "Relax, my mom runs the HOA. I can go wherever I want." I couldn't believe the words coming out of his mouth. That smug arrogance, like he thought HOA power extended to private property. I dialed 911 on speaker. "Yes, I have an intruder in my home." He laughed. "You think they'll arrest me? My mom runs this neighborhood." 6 minutes later, blue lights flashed through my windows. Officer Martinez walked in, saw the wreckage, and said, "Sir, step away from those papers." Trevor tried to explain, stammering about misunderstandings, but it was over. The cuffs clicked, and for the first time in months I felt peace. Vivian's power couldn't protect him now, and tomorrow, when that meeting started, the entire neighborhood would finally see who they really were. The next evening, 7 p.m. sharp, the Willowbrook Community Center was standing room only. Every folding chair filled, neighbors lining the walls, and that nervous buzz you hear right before something historic happens. Word of Trevor's arrest had spread like wildfire. At the front, I plugged in my laptop, heart pounding but steady. "My name's Marcus Rodriguez," I began. 3 months ago, I moved here for peace. Instead, I found corruption hiding behind a clipboard. Slide by slide, we laid it out. Phil's chart showed the missing money, dues collected, real expenses, and the tens of thousands unaccounted for. Dolores's testimony detailed intercepted mail. Bernard's timeline exposed 8 months without a single legitimate board meeting. Photos of violations, copies of notices, phone logs, it was all there. Then I played the security footage from the night before. Trevor breaking into my kitchen, saying, My mom runs the HOA, I can go wherever I want." Gasps rippled through the room. Cameras flashed, Vivian shot to her feet. "This is outrageous. My son needs help, not humiliation." I clicked again. Text messages between her and Trevor recovered by police. Her own words directing him to get the documents before the meeting. The crowd erupted. People who'd been silent for years were suddenly shouting back, "We want an audit!" "You lied to us." Then from the back of the room a calm voice cut through the chaos. "I'm Detective Williams, County Financial Crimes Unit. Based on the evidence presented, a warrant has already been executed on the Ashworth residence. Mrs. Ashworth, you'll need to come with us." Vivian's face drained of color. She muttered, "You ungrateful people, I built this community." No one answered. For the first time, the neighborhood finally stood together, against her. 6 months later, Willowbrook Estates didn't look the same. And honestly, that was the point. The fear was gone. The silence was gone. The neighborhood finally breathed again. Trevor Ashworth was convicted on felony burglary and vandalism charges. 18 months behind bars. The footage, the confession, the pattern, it all stacked up. As for Vivian, her fall was harder. 3 felony counts of embezzlement, plus fraud and conspiracy. The trial took 2 weeks, but the evidence spoke louder than any defense she tried to spin. The judge ordered restitution, $78,000. Her vehicles, jewelry, and even that gleaming BMW were liquidated. 52,000 recovered immediately. The rest through structured payments. And for the first time in years, HOA dues actually went where they were supposed to. The change was instant. Monthly fees dropped by 30%. The excess cash funded new playground equipment, brighter streetlights, and even a small community garden Zoe helped plant. Families who once whispered now waved again. People smiled without checking who was watching. We passed new bylaws, mandatory audits, board term limits, and open financial access for every homeowner. No more secret meetings. No more fake titles. They even made me HOA president, though I told them, let's not call it that. Let's call it what it should have been from the start, community service. Janet runs a local clinic now helping other homeowners fight back against abusive HOAs. Phil teaches residents how to read financial statements. And Dolores, she finally feels safe tending her roses again. As for me and Zoe, we got our peace. Not because someone gave it to us, but because we stood up and took it back. And this time, nobody's watching from a BMW. If you believe accountability matters, tap like and help this story reach more people, because sometimes the only way to stop abuse of power is to shine a light on it.